Hey folks, we're going to go to Reddit for a topic today. Just taking a break because I think there's one more question or topic from the email that was sent in around software engineering management that I'll address. I was checking out Reddit, and one that I came across in Experienced Devs, it was like right near the top. I wasn't thinking much about it, but I clicked in and started reading it, and this person wrote this big post, and I'm driving, so I don't have it right up in front of me, so this is my recollection of it. But it was kind of like, hey, leadership at the startup I'm at, it's like they're just not seeing it. Like, we got this problem where, the development teams are like, people aren't on track. Like, we're wasting time with tech debt. Like, we desperately need to bring in like an architect to go do this. And then they're describing themselves as like the most senior person on the team with like a history of doing like architecture stuff. And the whole sort of vibe that I'm getting from how they're writing this is like, are you trying to ask them to hire in an architect, or are you trying to get them to say like you need to be the architect, like to give you a title for it or something? Like, it's kind of weird. But they're calling out all of these things like inefficiencies in the team, right? So there's the team, it doesn't have that many. I think there's like 7 people in the entire company or something like that. So the team that they're on with the actual developers, I think, is like 5 people or something. I don't know. It's just, the whole thing's small. And they're describing like, one of the back-end developers is like rewriting stuff and like not maintaining backwards compatibility, and he's complaining about this, and some of the other developers kind of a similar thing going on. And it's like, okay, so let's acknowledge that we got a couple challenges going on, right? There's some inefficiencies within the team, but we're talking about a team that's like, up to 7 people. At a company, it's like up to 7 people. And this person's like very much concerned that leadership doesn't understand and they need to bring in an architect. Basically they're like, someone needs to like sign off on the things that the team is doing, was how it was being phrased. And when I started to kind of get through this post, I was realizing like, man, like, it is a tiny team, right? I don't think it came across that way in the beginning. It sounded like they're at a company where this is like sort of this pervasive issue across all of the software engineering departments or something. I don't know, maybe that was my interpretation. But by the time I got to the end, I'm like, okay, we're talking about someone who is on a team at a startup, and they got people that have maybe what you might argue are like some focus issues on what is the business priority to be chasing, right? So for example, if you have people that are heavily refactoring things, like, is that a good use of time? Even what this person's saying, like, they're not maintaining backwards compatibility. Do you need to? Like, does that even matter? I think most people would want that, but like, for what you're building, does that actually matter? It just seems like it's pretty typical stuff. And the solution that they're proposing to implement is, we need one person that is the gatekeeper. That's kind of the take that I got from their post, and they're sort of frustrated that like it's not being acknowledged that this is like a necessary thing. And it was kind of interesting. I scrolled through some of the top comments, and I think some other people had this same observation where they're like, man, like the company is like one small team. Like, you don't need to introduce like red tape to go solve this problem. Someone else made a comment that was along the lines of like, what it sounds like is that you have some engineers on the team that like maybe they weren't like trying to be condescending, I don't think, but they were kind of like, maybe they aren't the best, or maybe they need some more guidance kind of thing. And they're like, and that actually includes you too. Like, it kind of sounds like you're a little misdirected on this. And I thought this was an interesting topic because it reminds me of one of the last videos that the person who wrote it, asking about software engineering management and like staffing teams and stuff. This is coming from an individual contributor on the team versus the engineering manager on the team. And it's like, you know, we observe inefficiencies, we see challenges, and the solution is to introduce a new role, introduce a person to go solve this. And it's like, I genuinely don't think that that's a good approach. I'm not saying it can't work. I'm not saying that either this person becoming an architect and having sort of, that kind of sign-off capability couldn't work. I'm not saying that bringing in an external hire and giving them an architect title couldn't work. I just don't think that it's the best move. And I don't think it's a great move even. I think that instead of adding more, right, I think instead of adding more to solve this problem, I would say, how do we try to work through this problem with what we have currently? Because I don't think that adding more people or adding a gatekeeper or, bottleneck into the process is going to be the thing that gets you what you want. That's why I'm trying to say, like, I think it could work. I'm not trying to say that's not possible. I just don't think that I don't think it's a way that I would ever recommend to people. Because that's going to come with its own complications. You're going to introduce a new person, right? Or even if you give this person the title of architect, like, why do they need that title? I don't understand. And some of the comments, I think, were pretty spot on with this because, again, maybe I didn't read the post carefully enough. I can't really tell if they're suggesting, like, I need to have this title or not, because they talk about themselves in a way where, like, they should be capable of doing that. And someone had said, like, your company doesn't need to bring someone in. Like, basically, like, why don't you just start doing these things? Like, if you're observing these challenges, why don't you step up? What's going on the highway here? Come on, buddy. Why are you stopping? Holy crap. What an absolute dummy. I haven't seen something so stupid since probably the last time I was driving. Okay, well... God. So for context, the highway is completely backed up. This is probably the earliest I've ever seen this part of the highway backed up. I'm trying to get into the fast lane, but my lane is stopped. I look over, and this guy is driving with his wife and staring back at me, going like my speed in the fast lane. So I can't merge in, and he's just like looking at me. Like, buddy, either speed up or get the hell out of the way. Well, this is going to be a terrible drive, apparently. How long is this? So my phone holder's broken, so this is a 45-minute drive. My God. It's just on Google Maps, it's solid red. The express toll lane price is maxed out to be driving here, and I am currently going 0 miles an hour, so that's great. I'm paying to be in a parking lot. Anyway, back to this topic. So I don't really know if this person's after the title or not, but basically, like, if you're observing these things in the team, you should be trying to step up and be proactive and try to address them, right? I don't see another way that's basically better than doing that. That's, no extra cost to the company, right? They're not hiring someone. They're not introducing risk, right? I don't know if people realize this when they think about, like, small companies like that. If you have, I'm just going to, simplify this. You have 10 people at a company and you introduce one more person, right? or maybe let's do like 9 to 10, I don't know. But basically it's around 10% around that. When you bring in someone, your workforce is like 10% of that person represents it. If they're not a good fit, that's automatically 10% of your workforce. It's like not a good fit. So yeah, going from 9 to 10, one person when you have 10 people is 10%. So it's very disruptive if you get a bad hire. So there is a lot of risk when hiring. When you have a much larger company, sure, there's always going to be risk when hiring. That's why we want to do a thorough job. But it can be really detrimental to get a bad hire at a small company. The examples I was trying to give over the past few videos is like, if you bring in someone like that, you bring in an architect, right? And automatically they have the mindset like, I'm here to fix things, like I'm just going to change everything. That could be like pretty catastrophic. It could work. I've never seen it work. I have never seen someone come into a team and try to change everything, and that's positive. It is, in my experience, it has only ever been 100% negative. So I'm trying to acknowledge that there is, in the realm of possibilities, that it could be a positive thing. I've just never seen it happen. So it's not something that I would ever recommend to people. So yeah, you could hire in an architect. You could tell them you need to observe and then like slowly introduce changes or whatever and guidance. It's all possible. I think it's so much more work and effort and risk versus, and even like time to, time to impact, I guess. It's like a negative on every single front versus someone who's already acknowledging these things enough that they're writing a Reddit post about it. Like, dude, just start taking initiative. If you need support, then you should talk to your manager about trying to make sure that you're supported in these actions. Right? Like, I don't understand. Like, a title's not going to fix that. And then hiring in someone else, I just don't understand why you need a whole other human being to go do that versus you already acknowledging these things and then trying to make the rest of the team better. So anyway, this video will probably be pretty short. I just wanted to talk through this one because I thought it was a very interesting example where we see from the individual contributor perspective, like, let's add to the team to be able to address sort of like team dynamic challenges, not just an engineering manager being like, I need more headcount, right? Sometimes I think people see the engineering manager going, I need more headcount, and there's not, I don't think it's like for every engineering manager, but I think that there's like this negative perspective sometimes where it's like, oh, engineering managers and above are like, they're just trying to grow their empire. They're just trying to have more people that report up to them, so they seem more important. And like, yeah, I've seen that before, so I'm not trying to say it doesn't exist, but I liked this example because, in my opinion, it was demonstrating the same kind of thing can happen as an individual contributor. So if you find yourself in a situation like this, right, I would recommend that you try being proactive, right? You're identifying these challenges, you're seeing where the opportunities are, you know, you're going, hey, like, these people are spending time on the wrong things. Like, I think someone on the Reddit thread was like, you don't need an architect, you just need like someone who's stepping up to be a team lead. And the interesting part about that is like, that can be a very informal thing. Again, like, you don't need a title to be taking the responsibilities of that on. You could be starting to live and breathe that as part of your role on the team. And then as the company's growing, it becomes a much more natural thing to be like, you know, depending on titles and how all that works, to be like, well, we don't have team leads or tech leads. We should have that. And like, clearly Jimmy over here has been doing that. Like, they're living and breathing that already. So let's give them that title. I would argue the same thing. If they're making a statement that they think that they should be the architect or something, because again, I can't really tell from how they wrote it if that's what they're suggesting. Like, why don't you start demonstrating that? That's like, most of the time, we're not necessarily talking directly about a promotion, right? It's like a title change. Technically, it would be a promotion, I guess. I don't know. But when we talk about promotions, it's extremely rare that you promote someone being like, I'm going to promote them and hope that they can do the job at that level. It's very rare. It's almost always the exact opposite way, which is this person is operating at the next level and they've been demonstrating that. There's consistency there. Let's get them that next level. You know, one of the major reasons for that is like, there's a lot of churn that would come if you were to promote someone to that next level and they were not ready, or you took a risk in doing that, and now you have to go, okay, you're at this new level, you got promoted, but like, you're underperforming now. So what are you going to do about that? That's a way shittier position. So try to avoid that. So if you're in this position, I would say take initiative, bring visibility. I don't like the idea of jumping to additional roles or additional headcount to be able to solve this problem personally. I think that what ends up happening is like, if there's inefficiencies within the team already, okay, this is how the team has been operating, sort of a combination of like team culture, the software development process, all these pieces coming together. If you try to add into that and like to try and fix it, like, are you just basically putting a gatekeeper in that's going to be like, no, wrong thing to do, like, go do it this way, no, wrong thing to do, go do it this way, versus like, why don't you look from within and get the team to rally around like change in a positive direction? Because instead of having a gatekeeper, why don't you get like introduce fundamental change that comes from the team? Talk with the people on the team. Like, why are they spending time rewriting stuff? Why are they doing breaking API changes? Start talking with people about what that means. Work with people in product management, other stakeholders, to have conversations about like, next time we have a situation like this, should we be maintaining backwards compatibility? Do we actually not give a crap? I've had both situations in my career where we're just going to say we're not maintaining backwards compatibility. That's it. And that's been to like with customer facing features, but like more specifically, like just internal stuff, like especially when you're that small, it's like, it's way different if you're breaking backwards compatibility and you have like multiple teams that are going to be impacted by that. But if you're just talking about something where like you own both sides of it, you have a lot more flexibility. It might be like you have to figure that out at deployment time, if you even have a deployed service. I don't even know what this person's building. Like, maybe that's a thing. Maybe you don't even care and you have a deployment blip that's like 10 seconds while an instance that has the old legacy API is coming down and the new one's going up with the new client. Like, you might say, sure, like we just shaved off like 2 weeks of development time for a blip that no customer's even going to notice because we're going to do it on a Saturday. Like, I don't know. Like, there's just a lot of stuff about this post rubbed me the wrong way because it seemed like more red tape. So again, just I would remind people that if your solution to this kind of thing is like add more red tape, I would say I think you need to start having the team feel empowered, having the team acknowledge these things. I would do like more retrospectives. I would bring these things up in conversations, have hard conversations in the team. Doing a retrospective periodically, like whatever, if you're doing sprints or whatever, it's every 2 weeks or whatever your interval is, being able to be like, hey, something I want to talk about is I don't think we should be doing this. And then talk about it. Right? You all work together. Instead of like, don't get me wrong, I appreciate when people post stuff on Reddit because then I have other content. But it's, in my mind, I'm like, why are you talking about this to strangers on Reddit versus your colleague? Just go talk to them. Right? Like, I think when I see stuff like this might sound, I don't know, I don't mean for it to be too harsh, but like, someone else already said it in the comments, but it's kind of like, you might be part of the problem. Right? Like, I don't know, like maybe they are having these conversations with people and trying to work through it and they're hitting sticking points. Then like, work with your manager to get them to help support you on it. But I assume that's not really happening. Maybe I shouldn't. And if so, if it's not happening, like, start doing that. That's the lowest cost thing and probably has the best return because it's going to make the entire team better and work better together. So that is my rant for the morning. I'm going to wrap it up there so I don't keep repeating myself. Thanks for watching. I will see you next time, and a friendly reminder that if you want questions answered, leave them below in the comments. Happy to answer them for you. And if you want to be kept anonymous, you can send a message into DevLeader on any social media platform. And the codecommute.com website is live, but the question submission's not live yet. So keep your eyes peeled for that. I'll announce it in one of the videos when it's good to go. And I'll post on the YouTube community post tab so you can see that. But I'll see you in the next one. Take care. Thanks for being here.